Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer.
But who is he?
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer.
And who is he?
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer.
And what he do?
And he's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, and welcome to the holidays. It's Christmas, and this is a fireside chat edition of CLR Bruce Rivers. But before we get on to that, guess what? This, like all of our episodes, is sponsored by eForms.com. eForms.com. Let's say you're in jail this weekend because you kind of went off the rails. Well, you need somebody to handle your affairs when you're in jail. So you call your sweetheart and you have somebody go to eForms.com and get a power of attorney. Now she can handle all your stuff for you until you get out, and you can revoke that power of attorney if you don't really trust her that much. But anyway, go to eForms.com. Doesn't matter what state you go to. They've got all the forms needed for any kind of stuff. Don't hire me. Don't hire a guy like me. I would just go to eForms.com, and you just have to go back there anyway. So go to eForms.com. They're awesome. Now, let's talk about the Torey Lanez verdict. Now, Torey Lanez was convicted of all 3 counts. He was convicted of assault with a deadly weapon, negligent discharge, and possession of an unregistered firearm. The possession of an unregistered firearm is not that big a deal. The news media says he's looking at 22 and a half years. He's not looking at that much time. The biggest problem that he's going to have is deportation. He's from Canada. He's not a U.S. citizen, I don't think. And if he's convicted of a felony, especially a gun count, he is going to be looking at a significant amount of time. Out of the country, that is. Now, let's just talk about what happened in this trial. You had Megan Thee Stallion, Megan Pete. She testified. Kelsey Harris testified. But Kelsey Harris, I don't think, was all that powerful. But what's powerful in this case are 2 things. One, the position of where Torey Lanez was in the vehicle. And then the other part is, look at her injury. They pulled a slug out of her, or at least a fraction of a portion of a slug, out of her foot. So the jury evidently bought what Megan Thee Stallion was selling. Now, there's a lot of controversy about what happened and how it happened and who to believe and who not to believe. The jury in this case believed Megan Thee Stallion and believed that Torey Lanez actually fired the shot. But there was some controversy about whether or not Kelsey and Torey were fighting over this gun, and Kelsey, when push came to shove, she didn't testify for shit. She didn't testify that she heard Torey say, "Dance, bitch." She didn't hear him say that. Or at least now she says, "I was drunk and I'm suffering from postpartum depression." So she didn't recall that, and she didn't recall seeing him shoot the gun. So it really came down to Torey's word against Megan's word. And when you have that, you can't have that without something else backing things up. She did have an injury. There's no question that she had an injury. She went to the doctor, and they pulled out a bullet fragment out of her foot. That's powerful. And then you also look at the location where they found the gun and where they found Torey. And we in our last video about this, you remember we showed you that Torey was in the front passenger seat, Megan Thee Stallion was in the rear passenger side, and Kelsey Harris was in the rear driver's side. So when you have something like this happen, people take sides, right? When the OJ case happened, people took sides, regardless of race, gender, or whatever. But in this case, people are taking sides. And Megan's taken a lot of heat for this. So let's take a look at the reaction from Torey's father.
In the LAPD's office, tell me how there's no fingerprints. My God Almighty, I call heaven and earth to be a record today. That Rock Nation, you will crumble. I am the apostle of God. That's right. And you will know who I am. That's right. Say that, man. Come on, man. I feel that, bro.
That's a father speaking passionately about his son. And what is a father going to do, honestly? A father typically is going to be advocate for his son. But let's talk about what he just talked about. There's no fingerprints on that gun. Guess what? You know how often it is you find fingerprints on a firearm? Not that often. It's more often that we don't find fingerprints on a firearm, because firearms typically have oil on them, right? And you have oil on your fingers. You just generally, we have oil just natural oils that come out of her skin. And when you have a firearm, generally you don't get a good fingerprint off of it. So the fact that there wasn't a fingerprint on this firearm does not say a whole lot about whether he held the gun or not. And let's talk about DNA. You're not necessarily going to get DNA off of a firearm. There's a whole variety of reasons for it, but sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Sometimes there just isn't enough material to get the DNA off of a gun. And if you get a DNA, sometimes it's not complete. So they can say, well, we can't exclude that person. So in other words, that we can't say that person touched the gun 100%, but we can't exclude him either. So 9 times out of 10, I see this in gun cases all the time, where you just really don't have a whole lot of DNA or fingerprints on a gun. So where does that leave us? Like I said, people take sides. People get in this camp or that camp. People have conspiracies. People, listen how passionate his father was, and that's understandable. But the jury has spoken, and the jury's verdict should be respected. They heard every ounce of this trial. You didn't. I didn't. We weren't in the courtroom. We didn't see exactly what was said and what evidence was presented. So, and we know that Megan got fucking shot. We know she got shot. And we also know that Torey has means. So, Torey Lanez didn't come at this like your typical client who's got the public defender, who hasn't had time to look into the case, who hasn't time. He had resources. And those resources challenged and lost. Even the best lawyer, guess what? Can't change facts. You can't change the fact. Can't change the fact of where he came out of the car. You can't change the fact of where they found the firearm. You can't change the fact that she had a bullet wound in her foot and a fragment in her foot. So those are hard facts. And those hard facts are probably what corroborated Megan's information that she gave to the jury. So everybody should take a step back. Now, here's the thing. Is he going to get 22 and a half years? Not on your life. There's just no way that's going to happen. He probably will do a year, maybe 2 years at the max. Or maybe he'll just get probation. It really isn't going to be a very stiff sentence. But his bigger consequence will be an immigration consequence. Because you get convicted of a felony, major felony like this one, crime of violence, that is reason for deportation. It's possible that his lawyers might try something to kind of keep him in the country, but that is the bigger consequence that he is going to have to worry about. So this has just been our little fireside chat about the Torey Lanez case, and I just want to wish all of you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And if you're doing a little bit of this, take an Uber. So I'm Bruce Rivers. Thank you for an awesome year. I'm going to just give some props out to my son, Michael, who is a content genius. Michael Rivers. Give him some love on Twitter and Instagram. Make sure you follow us. Our hats off to Jaylap and CRAM. And then our hats off to Percy Mack, who did our outro. We really have had a lot of support and a lot of success this year. And our hats also off to... So we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Subscribe, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, and follow us on Patreon because we're doing some good work there too. We'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts.
Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. 23-hour lockdown, please, is that my God?